David, how are you?
Good, you go.
Yeah. Fine and dandy.
Not that. You know, books.
Today? Part of the average goal? We're advertising now, I know.
You can't pay like that or something.
Or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. You got your whole new line of clothes? Yeah, that's right.
I'm surprised you don't.
I'm something to aspire to. I was appreciative, but I know you have power shot. Yeah. That.
All right, it's March 17th, 5:45 PM and on St. Patty's Day. We're gonna call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Barker, Chu, Cost, Hauser, and Marmy. First item is the unappropriated balance stands at $367,231, and the balance of the budget stabilization fund is at $721,088. First item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $33,074.
Good evening. These requests are all in reference to our grant from the Department of Corrections. So I've already submitted a budget revision with the state of Ohio. They've approved it. So we're just here now to appropriate the money from the authorization.
Motion. Second. Motion by Barker, second by Hauser. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, send us on the full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation amount of $310,000. I have a feeling it's from water. Always the big numbers.
He's giving it fire.
He's wearing green, he's doing green.
All right. Good evening. So this was just meant, actually, I can speak to all three of these if you want, but the first one, it was missing our budget. We were planning to, we have a 2024 note for $300,000 for the stream bank levee project that was done out by Church Street on the Raccoon Creek. And we were expecting to renew that note in 2025. And so we have to first pay the original note off and get the reimbursement money from the 2025 note. The $310,000 we did not budget. So I'm just asking here for to appropriate that money. We can pay it and then we'll get that money directly back to be able to keep it in the account.
Motion. Second. Motion by Barker, second by Hauser. Questions and or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, send us on full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 5-0. Next item is a request for appropriation and the amount of $1.6 million.
So this again was my fault. Missed this in the 25 budget when we were preparing it. So both of these are equipment replacement funds. One is water, one is water, the 632 is water, the 662 is sewer. And these are just appropriated monies that we have in the case of emergencies. If we have a pump blow up, if we have a motor blow up, something like that, we have to legislate money for to get it and quick. So this is an annual appropriation we just missed in 2025. The money is available. There's actually about $900,000 in these accounts. I just want to appropriate $800,000.
Motion. Second. Motion by Barker, second by Hauser. Any questions and or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, send us on the full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And with that, this finance committee meeting stands adjourned. Next up is street.
All right, I'd like to call the street committee meeting to order. Present are council members Hauser, Labutus, Rath, Ryan, Blind, Barker, and Marmy. The first and only item on our agenda is considering resolution 25-14, a resolution directing the Director of Public Service to proceed with the steps necessary to designate Washington Street as Dr. Charles Noble Senior Street.
Good evening, council. My name is Jeff Harris, 24 Monroe Avenue. Washington Street is down in the East End, is been asked from several people from the Charlotte Baptist Church to rename that to Dr. Charles Noble Senior Street. Dr. Noble built a church down there in 1968. He built, the Washington Square apartments and all that down there. So he's done a lot for that community and for our city and for that other town. So that's what we're asking to do.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Barker, second by Labutus. I'll just say something real quick. I appreciate Mr. Harris, you putting that legislation together with the law director. I think it documents some of his great accomplishments in the community very well. So I appreciate you doing that. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yeah, I just have a question. Were all the neighbors notified? There's been no issues, they and the neighbors also, and engineering. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I just know those are the two things that we usually make sure of. So this is an actual, not like the ceremonial, like a couple of the streets we've had downtown. This is gonna be an actual name
It
change.
would be a brown, it would be a brown.
Just a brown sign.
Oh,
It's not,
it's,
it's,
okay.
it'll still be in Washington, but just like a.
Gotcha, that's
I was making that assumption. That's why I guessed it.
Yeah,
okay. very
All
good.
right, yeah. All right, we got a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. And that passes. All right, thank you. And with that, I conclude the street meeting. Let's go.
Marley. Like to sit in for Mr. Newark? Sure. Thank you. We will call the service committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Kloss, Blind, Shute, and Mr. Marmy from Mr. Neely. Up first, resolution number 25-15, a resolution authorizing the Newark Development Partners to act as an agent for the city of Newark for the sale of certain real property and authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Newark Development Partners governing the sale and distribution proceeds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The city owns the lot at 37 South Morris Street. Mr. Motter received a call on that lot to see if we would want to sell it. We have no municipal use for it. The best way to make that happen is for us to take to our development partners. There will be an agreement in place that speaks to the proceeds, and the proceeds coming back to the city.
Questions from the committee?
Motion.
Question by Marmy. Seconded by Klein. Any questions from the audience? Excuse me. Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this out of council, signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. That will pass with a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Chair. Next will be ordinance number 25-11. An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 2236 River Road, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, parcel tax ID number 054-225 738-00.000 and number 054-225-744-00.000 from the MFC multifamily condo zoning district to MFR multifamily residence zoning district zoning code with the city of Newark, Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You might remember this particular parcel did come through council one time. It did come to planning commission. Planning commission sent it out to council with a negative view. And it all had to do with density and number of units. So the developer is back at us with the same parcel with a lesser density. I've not seen the plan. But this is the second of two developments in that particular area. And I'd ask that you just give the planning commission, let's take a look and see what they want to build now. And we'll send it back to you with a recommendation.
It's great. Are there any questions from anybody in the committee? Mr. Martin?
Okay. So we're voting on zoning. Density has nothing to do with zoning. So therefore, if we turned it down once, why would I approve it now?
Well, that's a good question. One of the planning commission members stated at the meeting that he was not going to vote in favor of the zoning change because of the number of units they had. And if they would come back with a less number of units, he might reconsider his vote. And that was something that one of the planning commission members said that blew life back into this. So they have reapplied. I don't know.
But if we pass the zoning and they change their mind. And they do the density that they want anyway, we have no recourse.
Yeah.
So it's either the zoning is correct or it's not. It doesn't have anything to do with density.
Well, you can make that argument. I didn't speak for that zoning commission member.
Right.
I did not. And the fact of the matter is, when it came back to this council, you guys voted no for the zoning change.
Right, so it was not recommended.
It was not recommended. So
That's what. We did that
it
because.
was recommended, but the planning commission overrode the recommendation.
Right, and it was not voted upon by council, as we spoke wrong.
Yeah, that's right. We pulled it. So let me say it to you this way. We're here tonight because one of the members said, if you brought forward a lesser number of units, I might change my vote. Okay, they have the right to come back and ask for a zoning change. You have a right to stop it right here in committee, or you have a right to pass it on to me in planning commission. That's your decision. Based on, not based on the number of units, based on the zoning.
Good.
Yeah. I attended those meetings and they were quite populated and well attended by residents. Now, are the residents going to be notified again about
Yeah,
the second opportunity?
they know.
Okay.
They know, and it's flying around on different social media platforms. And yes, they will be notified. Yes. You know, let me be real clear. It's a zoning change, as Doug points out. It's not a density. We're here because of the comment that was made at the planning commission. Okay, it's up to you guys. If you even want to consider a zoning change, but yes, give it to me. If you don't, no, it stops here. Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Everybody.
I've already.
Good.
Just to expand a little bit on what Mr. Marley was asking, can you speak to why this area was zoned multifamily condo to begin with, as opposed to some others?
Well, if you go back to when we redid the zoning maps and the zoning code, which hadn't been redone for about 30 years, I'm gonna go back to, and I'm gonna get the dates wrong, so let me just get that out there. Sometime around 05, 06, 07, and again, I got those years wrong. There wasn't a lot of activity out in this area. And it was a group of us sitting in the basement of Med Bend, rewriting the zoning code and saying, gosh, we think this zoning would work fine there. We also took a look at the terrain on there, you know, the ground, this and that. So as things pick up, they were being built in the city. Other people have different thoughts and ideas, but we rewrote the whole code and we redrew all the maps way back then. So that's kind of what we thought. And then we've changed some zoning out there over a period of times, from one zoning to another zoning through avenues like this. And so this is the last zoning that is out there is condos, give you about 90 units. with condos, and that's a rough and dirty number. Probably what we would hear from this developer would probably be around 250 apartments. And again, I haven't seen the plan, but I'm just guessing.
What was their original proposal?
Jeff, I'd have to look at that. I think around 300.
It was over 300.
I think so.
Cost.
Did I misunderstand? Did you say apartments?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they want to build apartments.
Okay, well, what I can say, I don't know about anybody else, but my mail that I'm getting, every one of them has the word apartments in it over and over and over, and I realize we've got more than one zoning situation going on, but you know, it sounds like we do have a density issue, and we do have a zoning issue, but I think we have, I think the apartments throws another whole wrench into it.
The city does not have a development agreement with this group.
Mhm.
We have a development agreement with the district group. We've not sat down and hammered out a development agreement here. The district group we brought through here, who you all met, Scott Hartley. We would have redone that zoning all at one time had we known which way Thornwood was gonna go. We still don't know which way Thornwood's gonna go, but they did set aside 8 acres to give us some leeway.
But this one does not involve apartments whatsoever.
This one does not involve the district group whatsoever. That is correct.
And what, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that you're clear. When you said this one doesn't involve apartments at all. This is apartments that they want to build, and they will want to build it on River Road. On the northwest side of the roundabout. The Vista project is on West Main and Thornwood. So these are two totally different projects. And the Vista project on West Main and Thornwood is also apartments. That's pretty much a done deal.
You'll have about 570 units with this agreement.
Does that make sense?
I'm guessing around 250
It
units.
does, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the mail that I'm getting, which they don't put, you know, any sort of numbers on it or anything, so you're reading them, and that's the word that's coming up everywhere, so that's why I was saying, I think apartments are another aspect of the issues here, beyond density and beyond zoning.
You know, again, let's use your property as an example. You have every right as a citizen to come in here and ask for it to be rezoned general commercial. And the administration would take your application, I'd stand here and ask you to pass it to me. In this case, this particular piece has been passed to us. We looked at it. Planning commission member blew a little life back into it, saying if you brought a different number, that's why we're here. That's why we're here. The question is do you guys support the zoning change? And, you know, Doug, you're right. Somebody, they could sell it. We would have to put some type of restriction in it on the number of units, things like that. And I've not looked at the layout or the new proposed layout. I've not looked at anything has to do with stormwater on this. This is just, again, the beginning of stage one of something we've done.
Is it legal and is it possible that we restrict the number of apartments being built on that property?
You guys,
After the zone change.
I'd rather do it along with the zoning change as a condition, but again, I'd refer to the law director's office on that, on the legal part. I think we can put,
Would have to do some research.
Yeah.
Good.
but, again, if you like the idea of this property being rezoned, give it to them. If you don't like the idea of the property being rezoned and you think it has the appropriate zoning, then vote no. That's your choice.
Mr. Marvin.
So. In light of the fact that the first time it came through, it was polled, it never really came to a vote. That's one issue that helps the property owner. Second thing is property owner rights are the number one issue and we should always respect property owner rights. I'm not saying I support the zoning change. But as of right now, I support the fact that this property owner has the right to due process to send it through. So I'm gonna vote in support of sending this through, letting the planning commission look at it, letting the law director look at it. and go through the process. Because if we just vote it down based on the fact that we don't want apartments, well, that goes against the Ohio Revised Code. The property owner rights have to have their rights.
Doug, I can't speak to the fact whether this property has actually been closed or sold at this point.
Right, but they still have the right, the property owner has the right to petition.
Just as Mr. Cost would have property.
Correct.
right to
Yeah.
bring general ownership.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay.
We have a motion by Marmy.
Yeah, I'd say good debate.
Yeah.
Good debate.
We have a second. I will second this just to allow it to go through the process. I am opposed to the change. But I believe, I agree with Mr. Marmy about going, having an opportunity to go through the process as they did before. I would much rather see condominiums there, than a lower density. Much like the property neighbors have that.
No, and that legally, we're better off if it goes through the process and gets denied than to go, just deny it, just out of the gate without letting it go through the process.
Yeah, when it comes back to council, we can always vote against it.
Right.
At that point in time.
It may not even come,
If you want to.
planning commission may not recommend.
Yeah, but you do have the right to deny.
Right.
I mean, that's why you have city council.
Any other questions from the committee? Any other questions at time?
Yeah, I'm interested in the law director's findings because density is something that is gonna have to be addressed soon. And we have a lot of opportunities coming down the lane and it's something, yeah, I will often use the word boundary, but it's things that are, they keep the good in and the bad out, and it's an opportunity to look into something that could safeguard our city.
Let me help you a little bit. There's two pieces that were created when the roundabout went in. And there's a triangle piece, and then there's the greater piece. When I came up with my opinion last time, on the greater piece, I wrote in support of the zoning change. And the smaller piece, which was right against Reading's Village, I wrote in not support of that. I wrote to keep that. And I got that from the residents, at least I thought I got that from them, you know, because they were talking about how close the apartments would be. I didn't completely interpret what they really believed until went a couple steps further. And the concern of one of the planning commission members who said, you know, it's the density thing. It came from that particular member going out there and driving around and looking at the traffic. And that's where he came up with the number. And as you know, Doug, on these boards, people say different things and people stand on this side and lean to different things. But I'm happy to take it in planning commission, if you give it to me, or I'm happy not to take it.
Fair enough. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions, comments from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of this passing out of council and then ultimately to the planning commission, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We'll move forward with a vote of 5-0.
I'll keep this committee informed as we begin to see plans and things. I know it's tough, but that's an easy thing for me to keep you informed.
So, Mr. Rhodes, one of the things that I would be interested in seeing is, I don't know if we get this for our engineering department or not, but what type of traffic volume exists there now? And what type of traffic volume ultimately that roundabout was designed to handle?
Okay.
I'm very glad it's designed to handle immensely higher traffic flow than what they have there now. Yeah, because that certainly is what we're putting out in that area.
Got it.
But that type of information might be helpful as well.
Start up. Yeah, we have good traffic engineer.
We do.
Yes, I.
Thank you. All right, see no other issues with the first meeting, we'll leave adjourned. Up next will be Capital Improvements Committee.
Where Counselor goes. Can you, would you mind sitting in for us? Can we already do that?
Sure, everybody else.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you like to, Bill.
Let's, call this capital improvements committee meeting to order. President, Councilman Rath, Marmy, Labutus, Costin, Neely, and myself. First item on the agenda is resolution 2518, the resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Director Rhodes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We own the property on Cherry Valley Road, known as the old crime lab. And attached to that is the county board. It was a building that was added onto. It was originally the Georgia Pacific Residence Building. And the city owns the front part of it. The city bought it in '95. We've got a bad roof up there. We've looked at a couple of different ways to address it. We had quotes of up to $100,000 to replace it. I'd like to just kind of say, we reached out to Cameron Shepherd to take a look at it with us. I reached out to Mr. Prince, who's here tonight, Mr. Vickers, and took their advice too. There's a lot of talent between those two guys on building and re-roofing. We ended up going with a product that is a liquid product that'll go down, completely seal the roof. And we're gonna get it done for $21,000 instead of $100,000. But that's what happens when you just spend a little bit of time, you work with some of the assets that are employed by the city. So I'm asking for $21,125 out of capital. 15-year warning.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion by Rath, second by Labutus. Any questions? Go ahead, questions.
Figure you mentioned there the 15-year warranty on this. Do you know what the average lifespan is on this product, yeah.
That's a fair question. It's a real fair question. I'm gonna give you a minimalistic. I guarantee you for 15 years. We're hoping for one. So,
Any other questions for Director Rhodes?
I have a comment. So, just so you know, in the state of Ohio, roof and in particular shingles, you have 30-year shingles. In Ohio, they will probably last about 24 years. You have 25-year shingles, they'll probably last around 20 or less. The reason why is Ohio is unique in that we have extreme cold and extreme heat. And that's one of the worst things on a roof. The folks in Florida don't have the problem because they don't have the extreme cold. The folks in Wisconsin don't have the problem because they don't have the extreme heat. So Ohio roofs take a beating, and usually the livelihood of a roof in Ohio is less than a lot of places across the country. So to get a 15-year guarantee is pretty good. I mean, I don't even think you'd get that with 25-year shingles.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Because 25-year shingles also only guarantees that the seal will stay. But if wind damage causes it, then that's not because of the seal, it's because of wind.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor of sending this on full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. And with that concludes the capital improvements committee.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Up next is personnel.
I know.
All right, we're gonna call this personnel committee meeting to order. Present are council members Shute, Labutus, Cost, Ryan, and Barker. First up, we're gonna consider ordinance 25-12. An ordinance amending the position classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the city of Newark Department of Public Service subdivision with water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant by reclassifying the classifications of water plant electromechanical technician and wastewater electromechanical technician as water electromechanical technician operator and wastewater electromechanical technician operator, and setting the compensation therefore. Director Spurgeon.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, hope the day finds you well. The piece before you seeks to accomplish two missions. We have these assets, quite a few syllables. You've mentioned one water plant, one wastewater, but they don't have operational capability. So Brandon wants to build some depth to the bench. We took a look at this in the collective bargaining agreement. They're tied to two different things. So the second thing we'd like to do is just align it. Call them the same thing, depth of the bench. This is a net zero sum proposition, and there are strength authorization tables inserted at the end for your convenience.
Thank you, Director.
Of course, Mr. Chair.
Any questions from the committee?
Make a motion.
Motion by Labutus. Second by Ryan. Any other questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Director. We have two other items tonight at my discretion. Back in November of 18th, council voted to table ordinance 24-39 back to personnel. I'd like someone could make a motion to take it off the table.
I make a motion to take it off the table.
Thank you. I have a motion from Mr. Labutus. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Ryan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. It's okay. That is successfully taken off the table. 2439, I'm gonna read it. Is an ordinance modifying the pay range for position of senior automotive mechanic equipment operator in the city of Newark, Department of Service, Division of Street Maintenance, and amending the department authorization tables of and setting the compensation therefore. When we originally passed this through, after the fact, there were some questions. We decided to table it. Myself, Director Prince, Director Road, or Superintendent Prince, Director Rhodes, met with Law Director, President Harris was also there. This is simply we simply got everyone on the same page as we were trying to bring this employee up in pay, and there was some confusion on the license pay. What I would like to do is amend this legislation, still using 24-39. I'm not going to put an A on it. What this does, and you all have it in your packet, the difference you will see is section 3. I'm going to read section 3. This amendment is in consideration of the position being erroneously excluded from the most recent contract negotiations between AFSCME and the city of Newark, resulting in the current contract. This position is subject to renegotiation during bargaining for the upcoming contract. So section 3 has been updated. Section 4 has been updated. The amended compensation for the senior automotive mechanic equipment operator shall retroactively go into effect beginning January 1 of 2025. Director Rhodes has agreed that there is funding for that in the budget. Also, section 2 has been updated where it says the class 2 license pay for the ASC certification is particular to just this position within the street maintenance department. So this is just for this position. So you may have any questions on those changes? I entertain a motion. Motion letter.
United States Water, I believe, if it's already been tabled from council and sent back to committee, it cannot be amended because it's on the table of it's tabled on council. It will have to go back to council and then get amended.
So
Correct.
if I can type in, I double checked where I tabled it to, and I tabled it back to personnel.
Correct, but still, it's on the floor, still on council. Just table, so therefore, I mean, the amendment can still be done, it just has to be done, I believe, at council, not at this level. I think it's tabled back here for reconsideration back. I mean, it's a sticky situation because it's on the floor. And I just wanna make sure we're doing it.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
had done some research prior, thinking that this was the right path, and law director and I talked about it. So, law director, do you want to weigh in here?
So you have tabled it back to committees?
Yes,
Does that mean that you tabled it in committees? But
It
you
was-
tabled it with
it
council?
was on the second reading when it was supposed to be passed. We still had not come to an agreement. And we agreed to table it back to personnel for further discussion and consideration.
Okay, so I'm not but the absolute correct way. I think you could do it. I think you could amend it here, and then if it'd be cleaner to be reconsidered as amended at council, you could do it that way.
Mr. Verlier, what would you?
No,
prefer?
I just wanna make sure we did
Yeah.
it correctly.
Yeah,
I respect whatever the law director says.
so you're fine if we amend this here,
Yeah.
put it on the council? Okay, thank you. All right, so to amend the legislation to send on to amend the legislation, I have a motion from Labutus.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Any discussion from the committee? Any questions from the audience? All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, that is now amended. Now I would need a motion to consider or to send this on to council. Is there a motion?
Motion.
By the Buddhist.
Second.
Second by Ryan. All those in favor?
Point of order, it's already passed on.
Okay,
That's why I
so-
said it's already, it was passed from the committee already, and if you were going to bring it back to the table, you would have had to make your motion first, then table it. And then pass it as amended, but since you just did the amendment only, it doesn't need a,
So we don't have to
So
send
then
it
you
to
can
council?
take it from the table at
At
council.
at council,
Okay.
you don't have to do anything, all right?
Okay. Then this will be reconsidered at council. Correct? Okay, thank you. One other thing, at the discretion of the chair as well. Fire Chief Metzger, if you could come to the podium, I'd appreciate it, please. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chair.
Wanted to ask you, random members of council received an email last week from a member of IAFF Political Action Chair, informing those members of staffing changes at the fire department. And I've not seen anything official regarding staffing changes, so I wanted to ask, the email's a little interesting, I would say. So I wanted to ask you, with the personnel committee here, are there staffing changes at the fire department? What is driving that? What are those staffing changes?
So are you asking me to speak to the email that you received?
I'm asking you to speak to what is the current staffing of Newark Fire?
Our current daily staffing model is situated at 17 per day.
Okay. And that's my understanding from this email from this firefighter, that's a change, correct?
That is a change.
Okay. What was the reasoning for the change?
There was a multitude of reasons.
Okay.
The primary driving factor, in terms of making, a small change now versus potentially waiting towards or getting to a point where a more monumental or, a more significant drastic change had to be made later, was to simply try and maintain, sustainability within the budget.
Okay. Understand, I don't want this.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
You asked me, so if you would mind, let me finish.
Yeah.
what we're doing in emergency service, specifically here at the fire department, is extremely dynamic in nature. At no point in time have we ever been closed-minded in terms of what the current staffing model is today, versus where it needs to be tomorrow, or even in some cases, discussions we're having now, 3 to 5 years from now. The demand for emergency services continues to escalate. As with everything else in the economy, the cost of everything continues to escalate. The challenge we find ourselves is what level of service can we provide in accordance with what can we afford? I don't have that answer. If you have that answer and you want to try and help define what our service model is ultimately poised to look like, I'd be more than happy to have those types of conversations. And that may be an opportunity for us to kind of solidify what things do need to look like tomorrow, next year, and subsequently 3 and 5 years from now. We're doing everything we can with what we can.
Right.
We have the same challenges in the fire department that we have in the other safety sector of the city and the police department as well. Escalating calls. But in fairness is limited resources. Our deployment model today is, in some cases, no better than it was 20 years ago. We're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
To deliver the best service we can every single time we run out of these stations. And there's so much more to the fire department than just emergency calls.
And I don't,
Those are some of the things that are difficult to measure, to see on a daily basis. Just like every other division or bureau in the city. There's a lot of things that are working behind the scenes that make everything go effective, that make everything work. But a lot of people just don't get to see. And as much as we would like to divert some of those resources to our primary focus of emergency response, it's not that easy. And it's in some cases irresponsible. But to speak back to your initial question of has there going to change, there has been. And that's currently where we sit today.
right.
Thank you. I think we recognize what you do, what your team does. I think it just kind of shocked a few of us that we didn't have actually any official communication that there was a staffing change made. Because we're the ones that get the phone calls when people realize that. We're the ones that answer to that, and that's fine. That's what our jobs are. Just, we want to help you. The communication just was out of the blue and not from what I would say is wasn't from the chief. And it was kind of surprising.
Sure.
And that's not your fault that that person said that.
Well, it is.
But
If they're
you
expecting
can't-
communication, you didn't receive that communication. And if that's less than desirable, then that's totally fine. That burden falls on me. But to be completely transparent in the circumstance of things, there was a multitude of different areas that our budget was cut to begin this year. And that's in accordance with the forecasting and the global picture that we're looking at in terms of the entire enterprise. So the question I would then ask is, why is anyone surprised that this happened? Throughout my tenure here in the city, this has happened at least 4 times. This is just business for usual. With the fire department. Like, it's not all that positive. But we're not gonna get too wrapped up around it. We're gonna continue to come to work. We're gonna continue to do the best we can with what we have. We're gonna continue to lay it on the line every day in this community for the citizens that we serve. So to some degree, we're really not all that shocked. We have to do the best with what we're getting, and that's what we're trying to do. I've now received 1 single email. I've now received 1 single phone call. I've now received 1 single text message. I've had 0 communication on this from anyone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So in answer to your initial question is there a staffing change and why did it come about? The fire department was budgeted $600,000 for overtime funds this year. Right now, they're currently on pace to spend over $1 million. So I, excuse me, I approached the chief and said, we need to take a look at this because that's not sustainable. So the decision, I told him that you need to make some adjustments to try to get that cost under control. Now, I left it up to his discretion how to go about doing that, but I support his decision. What he decided to do was drop staffing from 19 to 17 on specific days. Now, we're hoping that we've got 11 paramedics in training that are going to graduate in June. And the hope is that they will get staffing back up to where they are. But we can't afford to wait to see that happens.
Sure.
So in June, when these people graduate, if the numbers go back up like we're anticipating, then we'll be good. Excuse me. So that's where this all came from. It started with me and it started with the budget concern.
No, I appreciate that. Just wanted to get some clarification on it since it
Okay,
kind of came out of nowhere.
any other questions I can answer for you?
Any other questions of the committee? Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just say a couple
Yeah,
things
sure,
to that too. You know, it's an ever-moving target in this city. And I would just say for administrator, we make decisions every day, every week. And we change things. And, you know, you get calls, but to keep you updated on every single thing is probably somewhat complex. I would say you've got to weigh out, number one, we're 1.75% income tax. That's lower than most cities of this size. But our bigger thing is what's the makeup of that tax base? And you've heard me say in this room, our 5 top employers are nonprofit. So while they have good employment, we get withholding tax, we do not get net profits tax of those 5. You may not find another city like that, especially of this size in the state. So, you know, in other words, you take Findlay, Ohio, a little bit smaller than us, but they've got Marathon Oil, and they've got Cold Distribution Center. 2 big tax-paying entities in there that are for-profit that pay them. So, you know, it's the makeup a little bit. Us being close to Columbus, sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Not hard to get over there to work or buy something, and so some things don't pop here. We're gonna stay ahead of the game though, because doing what you always do doesn't result in good things. But I also want you to think, and I'm not speaking for or against development or growth, and I'm gonna talk about that. But your considerations aren't just about density and traffic, they're also about revenue in this city. So when we take a plain piece of ground and put apartments or condos or houses on it, it generates more income. So you have to kind of do this balancing act. I don't know of any neighborhood in this city that wants more traffic. I've never found one yet. I wouldn't, I mean, you wouldn't, we get that. And I understand that, but you do have to weigh the balance of how we get revenue in this city, in any city. And, you know, any city that's growing, if you don't grow, you're probably gonna die and have layoffs and have all kinds of troubles. If you grow a little bit, you're gonna inconvenience people and create more traffic. There's more traffic in Newark today than there was 10 years ago. But also, you know, if we hadn't done a little bit of growth, our revenues would be even challenged more than they are today. So, you know, it's always a balancing act, and that's all I'd say to the issue we talked about earlier about growth and rezoning. And I'm not here to say for or against it at all. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there is a financial revenue side of these rezoning decisions at times. So I want to just to kind of give council a little more teeth in that as you think about it over the next few weeks before you go to that voting. So, and yeah, I get it, growth is the point, but if you stand out near where that rezoning is, we've spent a lot of millions out there. That bridge was 18 million. We built another bridge over 16, you know, we were the bigger funder on that. So with the state, but just so you kind of think about some of those things, but it's, again, I'm not for or against it, as I'm saying. But I think we talk about that because we work with the chiefs all the time. Our safety departments take an enormous amount of money. Things that used to last for decades expire, helmets, and I mean, it is kind of crazy now. Everything's got expiration on it, and we have to replenish and rebuy and do things. There's obviously, I joke a little bit, if you want to watch the old Hawaii 5-0 Classic, they just pulled up an ambulance and loaded you up, took you to the hospital. Well, we're far from that. And that's better for the people that are laying there with some problem or some issue, whether it was a wreck or, in their home. And when they roll out to the scene, the firefighters, what they do, the MTs and everybody work their fannies off, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of equipment to do that. But we have a great community because of that, and our people are represented well. So anyways, it's if you get those calls, let us know, we'll do it. But as the chief said, he hadn't gotten any, so. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
yep, thank you.
Councilman Marmy.
Yeah, I would echo what's been said and, I've been talking that we need to always look at, the model. What does our model look like? And I've been talking to the chief for over a year about it. Now, I can't do anything about it because I'm on the legislative side. I can't change anything like that. I would like to be a part of it and help and do whatever I can. But I think there's a lot of different models out there and we can always look at that and see if there's efficiencies. If nothing else, it's not even if it ends up that our current model is the best model, at least we know now. And not only that, we can even look at the model, it's the best for now, but will it be if we grow by, 100,000? Our population increases by 100,000. Well, then what does our model need to be? So we always have to stay ahead of that. And so I think that that's where the chief is talking about, we do need to look at those things. And what are we gonna look like in the future? And it may cost a little bit more money here to save money later or vice versa, but I just think that's worth looking at and we need to always do that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? With that, this personnel committee meeting stands adjourned. All committee meetings are done now. Council will resume or start at 7 p.m.